Welcome, dear viewers, for this 29th part of 5,000 Years of War. It is time for the great expansion of the already powerful Persian Empire, victor of the Medes, its former masters. I'm the Archivist, and we are now in 547 before Christ. Cyrus II, Achaemenid Emperor of all the lands between Persia and the Elis River in Anatolia, gathers his troops as Croesus of Lydia, ally of Pharaoh Ahmose II and Sparta, notably, crosses that river and takes the fortress of Pteria, property of the Persians. Croesus advances to try and prevent any new Persian advance, but Cyrus II, accompanied by his now trusted Mede general Harpagus, moves on to secure Haran, important node between Carchemish, Nineveh, and Damascus southward. And so, in 546, the two armies are facing each other, ready for war. First, an undecisive battle is fought at Pteria, and Croesus chooses to retreat westward as far as the region of Sardis, his very capital. Croesus has already lost confidence, it seems. And he's right, actually, for in the plain of Thimbria, his Lydian army, even with some Egyptian, Babylonian, and Spartan aid, is outnumbered and severely beaten. The Persians have used a cunning tactic during the battle. They formed a square from which javeliners and possibly archers pelted the enemy with projectiles, while camels brought from the baggage train are used to panic the Lydian cavalry horses. War chariots make some on-point charges too. Sardis's citadel then falls after a 14-day-long siege thanks to some ruse. Croesus, the rich, according to the saying, dies. The Persians of Cyrus II the Great proceed with destroying Smyrna on the coast and secure western Anatolia, except the island of Samos and parts of Bithynia, a land that only the Macedonians will one day secure. General Harpagus secures parts of Ionia and also Caria and Lycia through two victories in battle, and after the inhabitants of Xanthos on the coast here have burned their own city to deny it to the invaders. Harpagus also sacks Phocaea over here, founded by Greek Phocidians. Phocians flee westward. It must be noted too that ferocious Pisidia over here will be tough enough so that its mountain warriors will be recruited in the armies of Persia without having ever been submitted. We unfortunately don't have any details on these, but between here and 540 BC, Cyrus II will go on campaigns eastward up until nowadays Afghanistan. He'll sack Begram, Kapishi back then. And this year is also that of the legendary Battle of the 300 Champions, in which 300 warriors chosen amongst those of Sparta and Argos participate in a limited battle to avoid a larger bloodbath. Sparta, recently suffering a setback against Aegean, had first sent troops toward Argos before accepting this kind of melee. After the fighting, both sides claim victory. Legend has it, with only one Lacedaemonian and two Argive survivors, but in the end, it is truly Sparta that will gain the dominant position in the future, dethroning Argos in Peloponnese. Here was a beautiful Attic hydra, a kind of vase coming from the region of Athens. 545 BC now. Mede General Mazares, serving Persia, submits new Ionian cities. He dies soon, and Harpagus will come to finish his work. In 544, Thyrea, between Sparta's and Argos' zones of control, Laconia and Argolid, is taken by Sparta. The place was certainly part of the Casus Belli of 546. And look at that terrifying Gorgon sculpture found in Ionia. No, don't look it in the eye. Too late, too bad. Talking about Ionia, it is in 542 at most that the Mede general Harpagus, serving Cyrus II the Great, Achaemenid Persian Emperor, finishes securing that region over here. Harpagus will be made satrap of Asia Minor for this. Moving on to Greece again, where a certain Pisistratus, tyrant of none other than Athens, had been exiled by his aristocrat rivals in 552 BC. This year 541, helped by Thebes and Argos, accompanied by Thracian mercenaries, he lands in the Attic and marches on Athens, working at firmly securing his claim back on the city. But that will take a few years. We'll come back to him soon. We talked about his Thracians mercenaries. Thracians are diverse tribes living around nowadays Bulgaria mainly. They were fearsome warriors. Their Tarabostus riders, Peltast infantrymen, and Comates warrior peasants were very reputed, the infantry most of all. Their communities lived in fortified settlements on high grounds and were ruled by a kind of priest kings, the Polistes. Mountain tribes were even more ferocious than those of the plains. Alright, let's just mention for this year too the taking of Aeolid over here, small region between Pergamum and Ionia by Cyrus II's Persian troops. It's probably Harpagus at it again, for the Achaemenid king is still in the far east. The following year, Ling becomes king of the Shu in the China of the spring and autumn period. The Qin of the north being weakened, he stops a Wu offensive coming from the east by allying with Lu, Qi, and Wei, all three states of the middle and east of China. He also takes Kai and Chen, slightly north of Shu. Ling will remain king of Shu until 529, and note that two different Wei existed in the same area, one of them sometimes written with a Y to differentiate them. And why this time? Way west of this, Sidon on the coast of Levant is taken by none other than the Achaemenid Persians. And about them, the year after, while his lieutenants are still operating in the westernmost parts of his empire, Cyrus II invades Babylonia of King Nabonidus, possibly weakened by religious dissensions. Pretty surprising that the Persians were present from there to there without having already submitted Babylonia, right? A first battle is maybe fought at Opis near the Tigris River in September or early October. The Babylonians would then have been beaten because of the defection of a governor of Gutium, Gobrias. Nabonidus' son Balthazar is killed, Opis pillaged. Sippar on the Euphrates falls shortly after, and then Babylon itself on October the 12th. And it is none other than now satrap Gobrias who captures Nabonidus for Cyrus II. The besiegers have diverted the course of the Euphrates to deny the defenders and inhabitants of Babylon of drinkable water before entering the city under cover of night through the northwestern gate of Enlil, taking advantage of some religious celebration. Babylonia becomes a satrapy, Elam and Susa definitely falling into Achaemenid hands this year also. Way east, Gandhara and Cambodia around the Indus River suffer the same fate shortly after, and in the upcoming years, Cyrus II allows the Hebrews that had been deported around 587 and 556 to Babylon to go back home in their Judean lands. On to more trifle matters, if you will. Pisistratus of Athens defeats his opponents for good and firmly controls the Attic city. He received help from Lygdamis of Naxos, recent or soon tyrant of that island in the Aegean Sea, after a revolt in which Pisistratus assists him back. Here, on a chariot, and accompanied by a Greek dressed as Athena, Pisistratus triumphantly rolls through the streets of Athens. And so, on his side, Lygdamis becomes the dominant in the Cyclades, islands of the Aegean Sea. What a weird way to pronounce it, I think. Cyclades. So Lygdamis helps via some mercenaries this year, one Polycrates becoming tyrant of Samos, Ionian island. Polycrates will boast of 100-ship-strong fleet of Ponticon steers, so simple galleys, with which he'll extend his zone of influence. Enough of tyrants. Still in 538, the Persians seize Gaza and its surroundings, a base from which attacks shall be launched against Egypt sometime soon. Moving on, in the meantime, to Corsica in 535 BC. Off its eastern coast is fought the Battle of Alalia, in which the Phocians are beaten by an alliance of Carthaginians coming from here and Etruscans from northern Italy. Victory is costly for them, and the Etruscans pelt the captured with stones. It's mostly Etruscans of Caroteri that participated in the battle, envious of the mineral resources of the island. These are Etruscan riders right here on this beautiful archaeological piece. Phocian refugees will found Elia in southern Italy. More on the Etruscans, they are repulsed on several occasions around these times by the Liparesi of the Lipari Islands, right here north of Sicily. On land, on the contrary, they advance in northern Italy, crossing the Apennines to take Felsina, Bologna today, and Spina, north of Ravenna, and Marzabotto. Okay, moving on. Still in 535 BC, maybe some Medes still resisting the Persian domination are submitted by Cyrus II, probably in this region then. For sure, this time, two new satrapies are created in Colchis, southeast of the Black Sea. Possibly, numerous on-foot and mounted archers are added to the Persian army after this conquest. Other Achaemenid troops are marching on the Indus around the same time, and before 518, under the reign of Darius I, the city of Taxila, way up the Indus, and its surroundings are secured. 534. News from Rome. Tarquinius the Proud, grandson of Tarquinius the Ancient, becomes king of Rome by assassinating Servius Tullius. How many of these have we seen so far? This young Tarquinius allies with the Latins against the Volsci, established southeast of Rome, beyond the mountains controlled by the Albans. He also fights against the Sabines, the cities of Ardea, Ocriculum, and Suessa Pometia, and in a 7-year-long conflict against Gabiest eastward. And he reinforced Rome's walls. There's that too. I think we already saw that Etruscan helmet of Faleria before, but archaeological objects of ancient Rome concerning warfare are so rare, sorry. And as we speak a lot about the Etruscans, I cannot resist showing you this beautiful Etruscan war chariot dating from these environs and displaying on the chariot itself a beautiful hoplite panoply with a Boeotian type shield. A few years after this, the Derbices or Derbikes, an Hyrcanian people, so from the southeast of the Caspian Sea, and may be linked to the Massagetes, whom we'll meet later, fight, helped by their Indian allies and their war elephants, against Cyrus II, the great Achaemenid of Persia. Battle is fought on the bank of the Oxus River, the Amudarya today. The Pachydamuses are devastating against the Persian cavalry. Cyrus is injured and he dies soon after. Although some sources, like Greek historian Herodotus, tell that it is against the Massagetes of Quintomeris, uncertain historically, that Cyrus would have died in 529 or 528 BC. The battle would then have taken place on the Yaxartes, the Sirdaria, more northeast then, and so it's not the first time that we see different versions of history. And here on this Apadana relief are shown Sakas, warriors of the steppes close to the Massagetes. We'll quickly mention the death in 527 BC of Pisistratus, the tyrant of Athens. Sometime after having increased Athens' influence in the Aegean Sea and taken Sigea and the Hellespont, the future Dardanelles, and Chersonese, nowadays Crimea. Good job. 525 now. It is the start of the reign of King Bimbisara Aryanka in Magadha, in India, of course, in the valley of the Ganges River precisely. This kingdom was previously founded by Vrihadratha and largest of the Mahajanapadas. Bimbisara will rule over it for 3 decades. He'll annex Anga eastward and will unfortunately be assassinated around 492 BC. The capital of Magadha, rimmed by 5 hills, is Rajagriha, and under the Haryankas could have been developed some sorts of catapults, which could then have been the first ever before the Greeks. They would have been used in sieges. We also note in open battle the use of scythes mounted on some chariots, on the cart itself, or the wheels in the region. A contemporary of Bimbisara Haryanka is King Pushkarasakti of Gandhara in northwestern India, who could have gotten to power thanks to some Persian assistance, the Persians making satrapies out of Gandhara and Cambodia in this period, remember. During his reign, Pushkarasakti wars against Avanti and the Pandaras of Kuru. We head back to the Middle East, where the Ammonites, established here east of the Jordan River, take advantage of the vanishing of the Babylonian Empire to attack the Hebrews in Levant. The developments and results of these fightings are not known precisely. And nearby, Cambyses II, successor of Cyrus the Great on the Achaemenid throne, sends his Persian army to submit Egypt. The troops have been massed at Gaza, right here, since 526, and battle is fought during the spring at Pelusium, right at the gate of Egypt. It is Pharaoh of the 26th dynasty, Psamtik III, recent relief of late Ahmose II, that has to receive the brunt of this assault. The Persian army, assisted by about 40 triremes of tyrant Polycrates of Samos, a former ally of Egypt, of course prevails. Memphis is soon besieged and taken, Psamtik III captured. Reaching Nubia, southward, the Persian troops, some Phoenician elements especially among them, however, refused to march deep westward. Cambyses II, possibly dreaming of Carthage itself. He must content himself with founding the 27th dynasty of Egypt, and Arabs have probably been part of his armies in this swift conquest. Lastly, 524 BC, Polycrates of Samos is besieged by local opponents directly backed by Sparta, and that he thought have gotten rid of by sending them on the ships assisting the Persians in Egypt. He, however, wins by corrupting the Spartans. Okay. There is one, however, that apparently doesn't have enough riches to satisfy these same Spartans. It's tyrant Lygdamus of Naxos, that they replace by an oligarchy. Note that the Spartan expedition included ships provided by Corinth, right here. And in Great Greece, the southern part of Italy, where Greeks' colonies have been established, the strategos of Cumae, Aristodemos, breaks a siege of his city set by Etruscans, probably helped by Latins. That's all for today. The Persian Empire is already at its peak, or very close to it. Among other fascinating things, next week we will fill the gap that separates us from the great confrontation between Greece and this Achaemenid Empire. Thanks for your support to the channel to help it grow. This was the Archivist. See you all next week. Bye bye.